So today, the first day, we'll be discussing and interacting. I'll be sharing a lot of insights and deep diving into what is conscious fashion, what is conscious clothing, what are sustainable textiles, what are natural dyed textiles, and all these things. Because there's a lot of greenwashing, there's a lot of myth, there's a lot of little knowledge about things, even like organic. So discuss those things, and in the course of the thing, I would request you to also ask questions wherever and whenever. Today, especially because it's going to be interactive. Just we'll try and let each other complete their sentences. We'll try that. Otherwise, everybody, please feel free to talk and ask. And tomorrow we'll be doing how to take out dyes from kitchen ingredients, what are the ways to extract dyes and stuff. But this is a very introductory, a first step into natural dyes. Anybody who wants to learn more about application, there are more workshops lined up which will take you into serious dyeing and everything. So let's take one step at a time into this. It's better because there's so much of things to know and understand that you cannot expect you to do it in one session for sure. Okay. So if that is okay with everybody, we can start. Yeah. Everybody can just show a thumbs up, or in the chat, show a thumbs up. Yeah, right. Okay. Great. So first of all, I'm really happy that all of you are coming from the field that you're going to apply this knowledge somewhere. That's very exciting for me because knowledge has no meaning if it's not going to go into application. So I'm particularly happy that all of you are from art and design background, because I feel like art and design is the backbone of everything we carry. Even things like sustainability, I feel it's not a lecture, it is not statistics, they are not just fact. Art and design is the medium by which we can reach people, by which we can actually bring a change also, which we all badly need today. I was just listening to a podcast from Jane Goodall, the very passionate animal worker who's worked with chimpanzees for 60 years now. And she was saying that if you really need to bring, so the person who was interviewing her was asking that how can we bring a change for what the climate change is happening and all these issues are happening. She said that it cannot be a change at policy level only, because you make policy, then the other government comes and it changes the policy. And if you make rules, also people don't understand and they always find ways to break the rules. The only way to reach people is to connect to their heart, is to connect to their logic and intelligence, which everybody has to, move towards positive things in life. So if that could be understood, I think, change can really happen. So, yeah, and I think art and design are two major carriers in that field, because what I can't say with words, I can definitely say it through art. I can definitely say it through children. I can surely say it through design. And as a budding designer, I mean, whoever are budding designers today, they have a responsibility to bring sustainability to the forefront. And so it's very important for you to know first. And there aren't many courses. So none of NIFT, none of the design institutes are actually teaching a full-fledged deep dive into these subjects. And as we are speaking, we are also building a curriculum that we can take to these institutes about natural dyes and sustainability, right? These are still subjects which are very new and you don't have so much of information about. All right. So first, I'd like to ask you, what are you wearing today? If everybody can tell, what are you wearing? What do you think you're wearing? What is it? So we'll start with Shefali. Yeah. What are you wearing today?
I'm wearing a t-shirt, like sleeveless t-shirt and shorts. It's cotton and knitted. This is knitted and woven.
Great. So it's knitted cotton t-shirt, and you are not, are you sure it's 100% cotton, or what is it? What do you think?
I can say it's cotton because its property shows me like it's cotton.
Yeah. And it's chemically dyed mostly, right?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
chemically dyed. It's not natural dye.
Sure. Okay. Tamanna, what are you wearing? Even though we can't see you, you can always share what you're wearing. What do you think you're wearing?
Thanks, Namrata. So I'm wearing a cotton linen. I think it's a cotton linen nightie from the Calm Collective. They do deal with mostly organic materials, so that's where I'm assuming this is sustainable to some extent. But I'm not 100% sure whether it's a blend or not. But that is what I'm wearing, a long knee-length cotton nightie in black, which says Choose Joy.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. And yeah, sorry.
Dimple, Dimple.
Yeah, I'm always seeing teachers, so I'm just like,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not giving me the option of
No
changing.
problem, no
I
problem.
would have
Once done,
changed.
I'll be okay now. I'll be fine.
Okay.
What are you?
I'm wearing it's a cotton kurta which I had picked up from Mati, and it is hand embroidered, but I do not know if it is 100% cotton again, and it's hand embroidered. So that's all I know about it.
Okay. Sure. So let's go back to the basic. Clothing is made from fabric. Fabric is made from weaving of yarns or knitting of yarns, and yarns come from certain fibers, right? So if we go back and we trace, the fibers are the one that can tell you what the material is, what the final product is, right? So fibers can be natural, they can be man-made, right? And there's a very big myth that everything man made is bad and everything natural is good. That's not right. Everything in this world is ultimately traced back to natural. So even man made items, when they are brought from a natural, source, or natural materials are changed to make man made fibers, they are also okay. So we're going to widen our. There's someone who's got some background noise. Who is it? Try to mute. Yeah, this is better. Yeah, and you can unmute yourself whenever you want to talk. Okay, that's fine. So, the what was I saying was that the man. So there's a one big misnomer that everything natural is good, everything unnatural or man-made is bad. Let's get out of this myth at fully, because when you say that, you become fanatic, like like Hindus and Muslims and things like these. This is not the way it works. We have to keep our logic and intelligence open. Why is natural good, why is man-made bad, or why is man-made good as well, are things which I'm going to discuss today. I'm going to give you tools which you can use to question whenever you see any product, and then decide whether it's sustainable or not. Which brings me to the question of what is sustainability, right? So if you can tell me in one line, what is sustainability to you? All,
Utilizing
yeah, please go. Yes, Tamanna.
utilizing what cannot be utilizing resources in a way that you don't deplete them.
Okay. Can you just explain this a little further?
So by that I mean, I wouldn't want to take an example just yet, but I would say that if I were to use a resource, I do have to replenish it. And as long as I am using that in a cyclic procedure and building the foundation accurately, so the next generation can go back to the same set of resources and utilize them without having seen a metamorphosis, a transformation of some sort is fine, but it cannot have been ruined. That to me is sustainability, the ability for everyone to be able to enjoy the same things without it becoming any less cheap, so to speak.
Okay. Yeah, it's really, really important to understand what is sustainability actually. Yeah. So, Dimple and Shifali, who'd like to go next?
Yeah. For
Yeah.
me, carry on, Shivali.
No, you please.
Okay. For me, sustainability, as Tamanna said, is also, utilizing, like whatever you are utilizing, but you have to utilize it in such a way, not in a way, not in a way where, I use it and I do not bother about, what the others are going to do after me. That's one. Like, I'll tell you one. Just like Independence Day, I had this thing in school for my little preschoolers. So one of the one of the children says he will give up sugar, and I asked him why. So he gave me an example saying, to manufacture 1 kilo of sugar, we need about, I forgot the exact figure, but how many thousand liters of water. And he says, in the place where I stay, we have a water shortage. So I will give up sugar so that the water shortage is not there. So that's how it is, So when we are using things, we've got to be very, very conscious of how we are using them, what we are going to do with them, how we can, look at how we can recycle every bit of what we are using.
Yeah.
So it's not, that's how it is. Like even I have done the 10, I mean, on my Instagram, there is this 10-day Ganesha that I'm doing. So every day I am using things from home, or, things from my garden. So one day it's been food grains, one day it's been flowers, one day it's been banana leaf. So it's like, because I want to get into this of I want to move into teaching children also of, how you do not have to really go and buy those very, very expensive things. You can make something right in your kitchen and or in your house, and you can still give it as a gift.
Yeah. Thank you. Shifali?
Yeah, so for me, it is as she is that, and it is related to environment. जब भी मैं स्टूडेंट्स को पढ़ाती हूँ तो मैं उनको यही इंस्ट्रक्शंस देती हूँ कि हमारा फैशन सस्टेनेबल फैशन इसलिए होना चाहिए बिकॉज इट शुड नॉट अफेक्ट द एनवायरनमेंट. हमें एनवायरमेंटल फ्रेंडली फैशन को अडॉप्ट करना है, उसके टर्म्स को सीखना है. और मैं जो ये why I am attending this workshop just because of that, because it is related to less pollution and chemical dyes जो हम यूज करते हैं उससे बहुत सारा नुकसान होता है. I visited चेन्नई. वहाँ जो सी लेवल है, सी शोर्स है, वो पूरी तरह polluted है just because of textile industries and chemical pollution. And so for me, sustainability is fully related to environment. It should be environmental friendly in terms of fashion. So it's like for me.
Sure. So sustainability is actually whatever we're going to discuss right now. The principle of sustainability goes same whether it's food, clothing, shelter, or any other item for that matter. That's why it's a very broad, foundation that needs to be understood first. So all of you said that replenishing back and giving back is very important. Then someone also said that it should be not degrading to the environment. Then Dimple mentioned that it should not be expensive, and it can be something very simple which you can get from around. I'm just going to make sure that we understand what words we are using and what we are saying. So sustainability is actually mimicking how nature functions. If we really look at it, in nature there is no waste. In nature there is a cycle of birth and death, and everything which dies can actually give rise to birth again, and everything is biodegradable. It moves in a circle. The circle never gets disturbed. Now what we have done is how man has actually, some of our man-made activities, not all activities, but some man-made activities have brought a stop and a break into this, a pause into this cycle. And we've started creating garbage which, first of all, may not actually degrade in more than 100 years. Normally biodegradability is about anything which can degrade or start degrading within 2 or 3 months. So ultimately plastic will also degrade one day, but it will take 500 years. Ultimately, a chemical dyed t-shirt will also degrade, but it's going to leach out toxicity into the soil when it degrades. So these are things that we need to understand, that everything is biodegradable on this planet, but it cannot take 500 and 1,000 years to degrade. That creates a problem. Second thing is that when anything is degrading, it has to, it should not be releasing a harmful chemical into the soil and water. That is what causes problem. Now everything which is chemical dyed, when you are throwing it, whether it's cotton, linen, hemp, whatever, if they have chemicals, they're going to leach out this into the soil, which is going to come back to us, because our soil, water, and air is one connected unit. We forget that there is no patch of air that you can have for yourself or keep clean. There is no patch of water that you can, yes, you can clean water by using purifiers and other things, but the water which is going in the soil, the water which is in the environment where your food is getting made, where people are working and everything, so all those are very, very interconnected. And same is for the soil. In soil, whatever we are leaching to the soil, ultimately it is connecting below somewhere, and everything is reaching all of us in some way or the other. So this whole concept of being very connected has come out so strongly when COVID happened. Actually, we came to know that, okay, we had to move away from each other and stay disconnected to not spread something. It is as simple, so much that we are also connected. Similarly, our air, water, soil is very, very deeply connected. So anything that we are going to be using, everything is going to have an impact, right? So sustainability, for that matter, is something with that should biodegrade, and when it's biodegrading, it should not leach out heavy chemicals. Second thing is that whenever anything is made, how do you, so this is the first point, that the product itself should be like this, it should be biodegradable and it should not leach harmful chemicals when it is thrown. So the, not just the making of the product, there are three phases of any product, right? The making of it, then the using of it, and then the throwing of it. In all these three stages, there should not be any harm caused to environment or to humans. We are also part of nature. So if in the making stage, there is a lot of effluent and the waste discharge, which is in a huge quantity and it's going in the water or soil, that is pollution. It also affects the worker health. Most textile dyers and people who are exposed to dyes are potential cancer patients. They, after some time, they do fall, into this uh, disease some way or the other, because the dyes are very cancerous, most of the dyes. Secondly, so that's the making part of the thing. Secondly, when you're wearing it, so most of the chemical dyes have things called amines. These are some vapors which keep coming out from natural from synthetic dyes. So the people who are wearing it, if the chemical dyes are not properly attached, if they are cheap dyes, they will leak. Your skin is an open organ. All of us know that we can actually breathe through our skin. We breathe through our skin, and it's the only open organ in our body besides our nose and ears and mouth and all that. So if these chemicals, and which have heavy metals on it, if all of this you're wearing and it is leaching onto your skin, it's reacting with your sweat, and it is leaking colors, especially if it's chemical colors, it's extremely harmful for the wearer. If you look up any textile person, you should look up what is the allergy related to textile and dyes. You will find there is a gamut of low, very, very bad impact dyes which are still being used. And this is connected to cheaper the fabric, cheaper the dye, the more toxic it is. So any cheap clothing actually is a part of a more polluting textile than the expensive ones, because the big companies and the textile companies which are very big, they have to follow certain norms. They cannot use certain dyes, and I'll just come to what kind of dyes they can use and not use, and what are the ban on dyes and everything. But they are at least following some standards, because they are so big, they have to follow protocols of the pollution board. But the other unorganized sector, like somebody was mentioning, Rajasthan mein tie dye karaya and all that. So all this unorganized sector, when they are using chemicals, they are not following any protocol, any license, any certification. That's even more harmful. And when these dyes leach out into your skin or something, it's very harmful for you. So the user stage, or the place where you are wearing it, you are also at hazard of allergies, amines, and all this discomfort which is coming from synthetic fiber or synthetic dyes. Third stage is when you throw it. We are very, very good at throwing things right now. I mean, we use and throw because you have to buy new ones, and when you keep buying new ones, you keep throwing the old ones. There is lot of landfill issue which is happening with clothes right now. Because of fast fashion, we are creating so much of so many clothes that actually most of it is landing in the landfill. So there it is going to leach out all this toxin which was locked. At least when you are wearing it, it's not going in the soil, it's not going in the water, it's on your body. Similarly for plastic, plastic, when it is in circulation, when you're using it, it's not so harmful. But when you leave it in the soil, that's the time when the problem starts, because they're going to block the soil, they're going to choke the animals, they're going to leave out various toxins which have been used in the making of those products, and that's where the problem happens. So these three stages are, if you really want to be conscious, you should see, or if you're a designer, maker, or whoever, that all these three stages should be in your mind when you're thinking about sustainability. We should try to cover all the three stages. Yeah, that is a one basic rule. So biodegradability is done. Second thing is what happens in the process of making it. So all the industries have an input and they have an output, which is a product, but they also have something called waste, which is called the effluent. And textile industries use, which resource do they use maximum? Can you tell me? Beside chemicals, which is a natural resource that they use really, really in big quantity?
Maybe it's water.
Water. Yeah, absolutely. Water. One 2 meter fabric in its lifetime pollutes 2000 liters of water. One 2 meter fabric, which means one t-shirt, one cotton t-shirt. In growing cotton, we're using pesticides, where there is all this pesticide is going in the soil, then and the water is getting polluted, then it's taken out, the weaving happens, cleaning happens, mercerizing, cleaning, I mean scarring, making, dyeing, everything. So all of the stage, it was calculated, it's around 2000 to 2500 liters of water. And now imagine the number of clothes, imagine the number of water that we are polluting with just clothes and fashion. And that is actually, that is the most expensive part of clothing to the ecology, more than what it costs to you as a consumer. The ecological cost of fashion is really, really high, to the water, to the land, to the resources and everything. There is an excellent film on the true cost of fashion. If you guys have not watched it, I really recommend you to watch it. I'm just putting it in the chat also. Okay, it's called True Cost. It's a 1 hour film and it should be available on YouTube, or you can download it from somewhere. You must absolutely watch this documentary. This film was made after the disaster of Rana Plaza in Dhaka. So Dhaka, is a hub of sweat shops and places where all the brands get their work done. Besides India, Bangladesh is one major hub. So there were these really, crowded sweatshops where all this manufacturing happens, where they don't take care of the workers or their conditions or the buildings, and they keep making, work for the expensive brands. And there was a huge fire in which a lot of people died. And after this incident, the whole world was probably shaken a lot. And what started was fashion revolution from there. And this documentary was also made after this incident, and it shows what is the true cost of making of fashion, and how fashion has a lot of blood in their hand actually. Once you start watching these things, you'll feel like, i I mean, at least you should be aware. I don't know if you should be guilty, because I think, where do we go? We don't we would love to embrace good solutions, but if we can find around, if we can afford, and those are bigger questions. But at least we can be aware, and we can know what is behind what, so that we can value those things also. I mean, if clothes are going to be very cheap, we are going to buy more and throw more. If clothes are going to be slightly expensive and good quality, we're going to hold on to it and value it more. And that's probably one very, very important part, besides natural dyeing, besides using natural fibers and all that, that fashion has to be slow. We have to consume less to be able to make it, sustainable. Yeah. So that is another aspect of sustainability. Then sustainability is also about how, what fibers are being used. So as we were talking about, the fibers can be natural, it can be man-made, and man-made may not be as harmful as we think it to be. For example, if a man-made fiber is made from cellulose or from a natural source, but it is made man-made, then it is absolutely fine. But if it is something like plastic, something like, polyester, that is extremely harmful, because polyester is equivalent to plastic. We There is a notion and there's a pride, when we say that I got this product and it is not changed for so many years, like I got it 2 years back and it's still the same. That's exactly where you should start worrying. Nature has built a way that everything has to age, everything has to die and go back, and then new things have to be made. And that's where you should see sustainability. If you have a cotton dress, it will have a lifetime, it will fade, it will degrade, and slowly it will become, uh, compost again, and it will be, and then again from there, new things are born, which is good. But when we have something like polyester and we do not see it change 2 years in our wardrobe, maybe 20 years also, actually it will not change if you keep it. Which means what? Which doesn't mean it is good news. It's absolutely bad news, because when you're going to throw it in the landfill, it is not going to degrade. Which means what? We are blocking the soil with these things which are not going to compost. Can you imagine if this whole planet is going to have things which are going to be garbage, which are not digested by the planet? And what is going to happen? That's what probably we are having. Right now, we have a lot of land and we keep shoving off the garbage into some part where we can't see it, but this is slowly all changing, and there is a huge problem of, as I said, to digest the kind of waste we are creating. So man-made fibers, if they are biodegradable, they are okay, let's say okay to it. If they are not biodegradable, it's not okay. Natural things also, if they are poisonous, they are not okay. If they are not poisonous, they are okay. In nature, everything is very biodegradable, so that's not a problem. But where is the problem? Can anybody tell me, in nature, what could be harmful? Or what do you think is used in textiles which is actually harmful?
Dye.
Dye, exactly. Yes, one of the major. And in dye, what part of the dye actually? So, I mean, what part of the color, synthetic color, is actually harmful?
Where
Let's put it.
chemicals are
not
used,
sure.
Sorry.
chemicals which are using in making the dye.
So what is the problem with chemicals? Chemicals are also made from natural ingredients only. Ultimately, we are making something from this planet itself. So what is the real problem of chemicals? Why are we scared of chemicals? Why do we say they are harmful?
Because it's like I don't have answer. One,
Yeah,
because
Maybe
maybe
the
they're
dye fix
toxic.
the see a lot of when we use chemicals on fabric, especially for the color to stay on, we use a lot of chemicals.
what is the harmful part in chemicals?
The toxins.
The toxins, the acids.
Yes, so we are coming closer to it. And this is what it's important to go to the very foundation of things, and not say that, okay, chemicals are bad. Because if you speak to a chemistry person or a person from science, they'll say your body also has chemicals, plants also have chemicals, everything, medicine also has chemicals. So what are you trying to say? There is where we need to understand which part of the chemical dye is actually harmful. So toxin, yes, toxin is of two kinds. One is that if you ingest something, you will have poisoning, right? Second thing is that if you leave it, if it enters your water and soil, it changes the pH of the soil and water, by which it makes it harmful for the living organisms. So there are two kind of poisoning. One is ingesting, and second is that in your environment, it changes the pH of the environment. Dyes are not ingested, so they are not harmful in that way to humans. They are harmful to animals, because their food and all are the places where we are throwing all these chemicals. But who wants to know what happens to animals? We are actually not bothered. We only consider something harmful if it is harmful for humans. So let's talk about that for now. So for humans, how is this harmful? Is that these chemicals are extremely alkaline. What is the pH of our body, if anybody knows? So the pH of the skin is different slightly, and the inner body, the blood and everything, our inner pH is different. Can anybody tell me what is our pH usually? So pH
Honestly,
everybody knows, right? Either acidity or alkaline or neutral. Yeah,
absolutely. But from my 11th grade chemistry lesson, I remember it's somewhere around 7, but I'm not 100% sure.
right, right. 7 is neutral. 7 is the best for life. For any life on this planet, neutral pH is the best. But our bodies, our skin is slightly acidic, and that's because it prevents from germs to enter into your body. If you didn't have acidic skin, which by the way, when we use soaps and alkaline, any because soaps are alkali, right? It removes the layer of acidity and it makes us more vulnerable. That's why we say that our skin is not moisturized after soap and everything. We need, because the natural moisture and the acidity is getting destroyed. So too much of soap is very bad. Similarly, in dyes, it's highly alkaline. Chemical dyes, synthetic dyes are very, very alkaline. So you can absolutely understand that it's harmful for our skin. If it's harmful for our skin, it's also harmful for the animals. It's also harmful for the plants. All three of us, plants, animals, and humans, we need a similar pH. We need a similar. Why we say that humans are a part of nature is because all three of us, plants, animals, humans, we require same pH, same water, same air, same kind of quality of life, right? So dyes are alkaline, number one. Secondly, sometimes they are also, if they are acidic, like for protein and for, there are various classification of dyes. Okay, there are some alkaline, there are some acid dyes which are used for wool and silk. Acid dyes are also concentrated acid. They are extremely acidic. So extremely acidic or extremely alkaline is not good for humans or environment. Something near close to the neutral is what is needed. Natural dyes are also slightly acidic, but they are such acidic that the soil and water knows how to digest it. They don't become poisonous for the living creatures. But any pollution which is coming out of textile industries, when it goes into the river, the life forms in the river and sea are actually destroyed. They cannot sustain the kind of toxicity which comes with it. So yes, toxicity and changing of the pH is very important. So anything that you use in your process of textile as a maker, as a user, whoever, try and question, when I am going to be using whatever I'm using to make this, when the effluent goes, what is the pH of this effluent? That's what you need to check, and that's where the problem with chemical dyes happen. So I mean, I'm giving you these pointers by which you can actually check anything, if it's sustainable or not. Check the pH of your effluent, check whether the product is biodegradable or not. Secondly, check what kind of fibers are you using. Are the fibers itself plastic, or they are natural, or they are sustainable? Man-made fibers also can be sustainable. That is about these three main aspects. Then I mean, when we talk about cotton, cotton is the most common clothing fiber, right? After that, there are many more fibers used. So, can you all tell me what are the common fibers you know which are used in clothing besides cotton?
Jute,
Yeah, some of it.
linen to a
Rayon,
certain extent.
Linen.
uh,
Sorry, what did you say? Shifali or Tamanna?
rayon.
Rayon. Yeah, rayon is from cellulose. It's a man-made fiber, but it's from
Yeah,
cellulose. Yeah.
but it's cellulosic. Yeah.
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 What else? Have you heard of these things called bamboo fiber, soya fiber, banana fiber? A lot of these things are coming now because,
Yeah, in fact, a lot of diapers for babies are being manufactured from bamboo fiber.
yeah. So are these good fibers according to you?
No idea.
Yes.
No idea.
How do you gauge? So don't be again blinded by the name cotton, rayon, or bamboo or whatever. Okay, all the fibers are very good for sure. But how are they processed and how they are made? That's the part where chemicals are being used. That's what you need to check also. Cotton is probably no is the most pesticide hungry crop. It consumes 25% of world's pesticide. And to grow cotton, people use a lot of pesticides, especially if this cotton is, not native cotton. So there are varieties of cotton. From the time of British, when they started the textile mills, they
Fantastic.
actually destroyed our natural cotton, which was short staple, indigenous, which did not need pesticide, did not need irrigation. It could easily grow with rainwater. It was a very hardy crop, and that could only be hand woven. Khadi was the way which used to make clothes before, mills happened. But once the American cotton was introduced, this was a not a native fiber, and then we started using a lot of pesticides because they had a lot of diseases, and to fight these diseases, a lot of pesticides started being used. And pesticides, by the way, are also not harmful if they were used in a particular way and a particular quantity. When any poison is used in a limited way, it is okay to use as a medicine for some problem or disease. But when it is used rampantly in a much bigger quantum, that's where problem happens. So there's one more word I'm throwing in this whole discussion of sustainability, is the word quantum, is the word quantity. So let's understand that anything in a small quantity may not be harmful. Even chemical dyes may not be harmful if we were making lesser clothes and lesser production or whatever. Because think about, like, if there is a swimming pool and you drop one glass of water or one drop of poison, it can be diluted and it's not harmful. But if you are filling buckets and buckets of poison in the swimming pool, then of course it will get poisonous. So the problem today, more than whether it's chemical or natural, is also the quantity of things that we are using. Every other person is probably making clothes today. If you try and see, there are so many brands which are coming up, there are so many people who are doing. So the problem is that we are using too much of chemicals, right? So I'm going to just go back to the cotton part. So the cotton which is growing, and all these clothes that we are making, we're not even using it, we throw them very quickly as well. So cotton uses a lot of pesticide. So if you look at cotton, and that pesticide pollutes that water which is used in growing cotton. Cotton is two things demanding: water, if it's not indigenous cotton. Second is the pesticide, again, if it's not indigenous. So if we are using native varieties, if you go back to indigenous cotton, you would actually be a very, very sustainable brand, designer, maker, user, whatever you call it. But when we are using American cotton, non-organic cotton. Okay, let me introduce the word organic here. So what is organic cotton? Can anybody tell me?
That which was grown without using pesticides.
Yes, yes, that's exactly. So here's a problem of cotton pollution solved if you are using organic cotton. That's why organic cotton is number one choice in sustainability, right? Secondly, as I said, if you're using any indigenous cotton, which is desi cotton, khadi, or whatever local varieties, they are really good. So cotton, which is a maximum used fiber in textiles and clothing, let's say these are things that you need to take care of. Then we spoke about bamboo and all these other things, which are extremely nice because they're coming from nature. But do you know that to process bamboo, lot and lots of chemicals are used, because bamboo is a very hardy fiber. To make it soft and to make it malleable and to process it into a fiber, loads of chemicals go into it. So if you really think about it, if you really want to question sustainability, then if the process is involving a lot of chemicals, then it's hardly sustainable. The sustainability should be also in the process in which the fiber is getting made. That's why try and see the processes whenever you work with anyone. Say you're sourcing bamboo or soya fiber, anything. Try to find out what is the process of making that fiber ready for use. That's where you will find out, how sustainable it is or not. Okay, so this is about the natural fiber, about the man-made fiber. This is just the fiber right now we're talking about. Then the yarns are made. When the yarn is getting made and the weaving is happening, okay, especially when the yarns are woven to make fabric, Do you think any pollution happens at that time? Anybody?
Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, when the yarn is getting woven into a fabric, do you think any pollution happens at that time?
Yes, I think air pollution, maybe. I'm not
No,
sure.
no air pollution.
Okay,
Air pollution happens in the dyeing stage because they use boilers. All the
okay,
textile industries, you'll find these huge boilers and they give out extremely black smoke because coal
okay.
is being used in the boilers. They're
Hmm.
extremely polluting. Yeah, but not in the weaving. Have
Weaving.
you
Okay.
heard
If
of
it is, if it is, if like if it is a motorized weaving machine, then
then
probably.
yeah, some part of say energy is being used, so which is coming from coal. And yes, if you really look at it, then that is there. But I think we can't do without machines now, the way we are going ahead and everything. But the one of the problems that happens in weaving is the starch, which is the synthetic starch, which is used. It's not normal, it's not natural starch anymore. It's something like Fevicol. It's a synthetic starch, and this starch leaches and they use a lot of starch. So again, good quality industries and machines will not use this lot of starch, or their operations are very efficient and optimized. But textile industry is very unorganized, right? In the low or whatever, in the unorganized sector, lot of these things are used without any information about how much to use, and they don't measure, they don't have a protocol. There is a term called eutrophication which happens. Have you all heard about it? Eutrophication.
No.
Eutrophication is basically algae bloom in the. Have you heard about algae bloom problems in the sea and the oceans
Yes,
and the
Sandra.
rivers? So algae bloom, what happens? A lot of the starch is going in the water, and the starch causes a lot of algae growth on the top surface of the river, ocean, sea, whatever. Not sea, rivers and oceans. So when this growth happens, it cuts down the supply of oxygen, light.
Can you repeat? Can you repeat the term? That
Eutrophication.
is
I'll just write it in the chat box.
okay.
Eutrophication. Eutrophication. So this algae bloom actually cuts down the supply of oxygen and sunlight, and all the fishes below, they die. So just imagine a simple thing like starch can actually also cause so much of a problem, which is not toxic also, but it is so much of food that algae bloom happens, and then the cleaning has to be done to be able to, do this. So there are a lot of these collateral damages which happen. And again, all of these things could be better if the factory or the maker or the people who are making it, they follow norms, they know how much and what to follow. If they follow, then these things can be taken care of. So that's the weaving or the making stage. And now we come, so we took the fiber, we made the yarns and fabric, and now the fabric is getting processed. This is the part where maximum chemicals are used. Okay. Can anyone take a guess of how many chemicals are actually used in a textile industry? Like in all the stages, like without which the textile industry would actually not function. How many minimum chemicals are used to support textiles? All kinds of processes in textiles. Yeah. Maximum are used in dyeing, but yeah. Any number, take a guess and everybody give me a number.
I
8 to
cheated and
10.
looked it up. So
How much?
8 to 10.
Okay. Anybody else? What else other people are saying?
I looked it up, and from what I can see on the very first page, it says up to 8,000.
Yes, up to 8,000. 8,000 to 12,000 chemicals are used in any textile industry from beginning to end. You cannot work without 8,000 chemicals. That's the minimum. And this is because 8,000 chemicals are used to combine and make that, a few chemicals in there. A lantern can light up. Okay, what just happened? All right. So we are talking about 8,000 chemicals. How do we remove 8,000 chemicals from the system? It's probably not possible as we speak now. But what I want to talk about in this 2 day session is about the dyeing part. Dyeing part also uses a lot of chemicals and it pollutes the water maximum. This part, if we can use natural dyes somehow, then we can remove all the chemicals from the system in the part, and we can actually keep the water clean. So some of you, and you mentioned, Dimple ji, that the student of yours, he said that because water scarcity is there, or he's not going to have sugar, right? So the problem with all the industries that use water is that they are polluting water, and that cannot be reused. Okay, because once textile industry uses water, it's so harmful that nobody can clean it. And why not? Cleaning should be possible, but cleaning is such a huge energy intensive and expensive process that if textile industries started actually cleaning their water, you would have clothes at skyrocketing prices. It will not be cheap anymore, because they're using gallons and gallons of water. And if you have to clean water, you actually have to store the water in a tank to be able to keep it for many days and then add cleaning agents and let it clean. But the way they use water, they can't afford to have those storage tanks to clean water and then leave it in the system. That's a very, very expensive process. So bigger and good companies, they have a lot of protocols to follow. So they partially follow some cleaning process, but most of the water which is going in the rivers is all untreated or half treated water. And the lower industries don't even talk about it. So they are extremely dirty. They don't follow anything. They just use the chemicals and drop that water in the drains or everything. By which I mean, Shefali were talking about dyeing in Rajasthan and all these places. So in Jaipur, in all the places of handicraft, where now they are all using chemical dyes, okay, they are not disposing of following any water, effluent discharge system or whatever. So they are actually really, really harmful. And because why does all this happen? Because we want the cloth really cheap, because we don't want to pay more money. So they will not have a treatment. And of course, awareness is also not there. So all this demand actually has to come from the consumer. In all my years of understanding conscious fashion and seeing things, I have realized one thing, that the government has no concern about sustainability. It will only come up when the United Nations or at the world level some rule is getting, or the Germany puts a ban. So Germany was the first company to start synthetic dye in 1880s. Germany was the first company to put a ban on azo dyes. Okay, this is a term. Has anybody heard the term azo dyes? Anybody from textiles, Shefali
I
or
heard, actually, I'm not from textile background, but I heard about, but not much knowing about this.
okay. So azo compound is a cancerous compound in chemical dyes. Okay. So when dyes were made, everything was very hunky-dory and everybody thought it's a best solution and we use it for a lot of time. Still, they started seeing a lot of problems related to dyes. And then Germany was the first because it was a maker of the dyes actually first beginning, and they put a ban on azo compound, and they said we have to make dyes without this azo free dyes. Now if you are working in any company or you are exporting any textile to any part of the world, you have to use only azo free dyes. But which countries? European countries. If you're selling in India, no problem, you can sell anything. So azo dyes are actually cancerous dyes, and this is what was changed. And so again, the what I was coming to was that the cheaper fabric makers do not follow any norms. They are not exporting, and in India there's no ban right now. It will come in some years, maybe when enough degradation has happened. So the cheaper the fabric and things, they are most unsustainable processes. Secondly, you have heard a lot of people in handicraft clusters also saying that everything is vegetable dyed, natural dyed, right? And do you think it's It's safe and it's sustainable. Anybody has what could the problem be? I'm saying they're not sustainable. Can you tell me
See,
why?
the vegetables we get are also grown using a lot of pesticides. So then how safe would a vegetable dyes also be? Maybe they would be less harmful as compared to the chemical, but
Yeah,
again, they are also harmful.
sure, absolutely. Actually, the problem is not so much the colors. That's a very small part of the problem, that they are organic or non-organic sources. But mostly these things come from wild nature, so that's not so much of a problem. The main problem is the fixers. So with natural dyes, you have to use a fixer to fix the dye on cotton. Okay, and the fixers are usually synthetic, in nature, which are used because they're cheaper, because they make the colors brighter, and because they're easy to use. Natural dyes, if it is completely natural fixer and natural dyes, then it fades faster. It is a difficult process, and it's a little more expensive than using cheaper synthetic dyes or heavy metals. So natural dyers, if they are using heavy metal as fixers, or they're using synthetic fixers to fix a dye, it's hardly sustainable. They are little sustainable than chemical dyes, but ultimately, if you look at the chemicals used in the process, again, I'm bringing back to the thing of questioning that besides the color, if the color is from nature, fine. What else is being used to make that fabric is important to know. These are the kind of questions you need to ask from wherever you're sourcing. If you're sourcing natural dyes, or you're sourcing natural dyed fabric, or you're buying, these are the kind of questions that you should look at if you really want to understand, whether it's sustainable or not. But there are metals in nature which are safe to use, and these are alum and iron. You must have heard about, if you know anything about natural dyeing, about alum and iron. Have you? So alum and iron are two metals which are normally present in the soil and in the water in good quantity. So our environment knows how to digest it, how to work with it. But things like copper, things like chromium, no, they are trace metals. They are not present in soil and water. They are all locked up in Earth's crust, and they were not supposed to be taken out. When we take them out and we bring them into circulation, so heavy metal poisoning is one of the major problems of industries. And in textile industry, dyeing heavy metals are really used for all kinds of properties. Okay, so the fixer is the one which is a problem if we really look at dyes. So yeah, coming back to the sustainability point and saying about the fabric processing, if we could actually process things naturally, they would be more sustainable and maybe 0% polluting than any chemical counterparts. And I was speaking about water. So in chemical dyes, water can't be cleaned, that's taken. But in natural processes, water can actually be recycled and cleaned very easily. So, which means that if water could come back into the system from where it was used, then we would not have water scarcity or water problems like we are having when we are using chemicals. So, that is also a very big part. Thirdly, the cost of water treatment and effluent treatment, which is on the industries that use chemicals, is very, and effluent treatment or the wastage treatment for the less for the natural process industries is very low. So these are some pointers why a thing could be sustainable. You need to look at the effluent treatment, you need to look at the water consumption, the quantity of water, the number of chemicals, the fibers, how they are made, the process, how it's done, all these systems, if you really want to understand conscious clothing. Okay. Now I'd like to take some questions about what is your question about in the field of conscious clothing, so that we can address some general things that you know of and you're not sure whether it's right or wrong, and you can ask me.
Probably one I would say it does conscious clothing at any point in time have any association with the number of SKUs that are produced.
Number
So
of
SKUs can be produced, the number of products that can be produced for a given organization. And if there is indeed a limit, how is it that it's decided? If conscious clothing is scalable.
Are you asking that if conscious clothing is scalable or not? Is that the
Yes,
question?
so both of them. If there is a number, if at some point if you produce too much conscious or
Right.
organic clothing, it becomes
Right.
too much. And the second thing is if it's scalable, despite. I think the Calm Collective does something like this, and they don't redo their designs very often.
Yes. That
So maybe it could
that's a
be.
very, very good question, because if today the number of textile manufacturers decide to go organic, we can't go. There is not so much organic cotton that it can feed all the textile mills of today. Organic cotton is limited. We are slowly changing to organic. So first of all, we can't have that. Secondly, that if we decide to go in natural dyes also, we can't actually completely think about going natural with fast fashion. Fashion has to be slow fashion, lesser consumption if it has to be. So anything which is sustainable and natural can't be, it can be scalable, it can be mass produced, but it can't be as crazy as fast fashion. Fast fashion is only working and surviving because of plastic and man-made things and all the unsustainable options. Sustainability also limits you to the size and the consumption. I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, any brand which is sustainable will not have the variety and the stock like H&M. H&M is surviving because it's working completely on unsustainable, kind of products. So yeah, those kind of giants we can't have. We cannot have 13 seasons in a year, or for that matter even 12 seasons in a year. So today fashion industry has become like you keep having a lot of fashion weeks, so every week fashion is changing, not just every month, not just in a year 4 seasons. Like we have 4 seasons in a year, but fashion is changing so fast that that's not sustainable. So we need to have fashion which will sustain for a longer period, and the trend which is going to be set, that has to be also changed. It can't be so rapid changing. Yeah. And also upcycling and reusing the old things and making them new is a very, very huge rage also, and which is very, very important as part of this question for conscious clothing. That you take out your grandmother's saris and products and thing and reuse it. Either you make something else with it or you use it again, but to upcycle products is going to be very, very important part as well. Yeah. Any other question that anybody has in terms of conscious clothing and sustainable textiles? So, I mean, who is the person who actually creates the demand? I was saying that the government is not bothered. It'll only change and it'll only do things when something at the global level and everything happens. Second thing is that the companies itself, none of the big corporates are thinking about sustainability. None of the brands are thinking about sustainability. The person which is left behind and which actually has a lot that they can drive sustainability is the consumer. Time and again, I think most people who are working on sustainability, they'll find that the consumer, because consumer is the one who gets impacted, the health of the consumer and everything, and they have more awareness than any of these people if they were told about it. Because ultimately you see the corporates and the brands are listening to the demand. They are only the suppliers, but where is the demand coming from? Demand is coming from the consumer. If the consumer starts asking today to everybody that, okay, is there natural, if you go to a shop and you ask, is there a natural dyed fabric that you have or a natural dyed top that you have, that shopkeeper is going to go and tell to his brand or the supplier that, what is this natural diet, people are coming and asking me, there's a huge demand for this, do something about it. And then that supplier will go to their own bigger other supplier and say natural diet chahiye hame. So the brands actually have a lot on the shoulders to create. If they could create torn jeans as a fashion, if they could create faded jeans as a fashion and everybody is wearing it with so much of pride, they can actually also create natural dye fashion which fades. Natural dye fashion is not a permanent dye. and it will fade, and it's absolutely cool. It doesn't look bad. It can become a part of the fashion, that it's something which changes with age. So if they can make it cool, and if the people who are fashion, designers and the icons, they can together take this onus, then that change can really happen. So as a textile student, or a budding designer, or a textile professor, or whoever you are, you actually can drive this change, because once your students know about it, I mean, the more awareness that happens on this, the more demand it will create, and the more it will be exciting for the people who are making it. Manufacturers, brands, and all the people are looking to consumers to seduce them. And they categorically don't want this information about textile pollution to go to the people. So if you really look up notes on how textile is polluting, you won't get a lot details on the web also, because these are very highly classified information. Yeah. And people have loads of ways of saying things, that they are doing sustainable things. They're using azo-free dyes. Azo-free is good dye because it's less cancerous, but it's still harmful. So if you look up, there are terms that they use, that low impact dyes, azo-free dyes. These are terms to say that we are chemical, but we are less harmful chemical. So, but then we would like to see that the word natural also comes on the platform. Today, I mean, how many of you know of any shop from where you can buy a natural dyed outfit? Do you guys actually know in your vicinity or in your area? Is there a shop which sells natural dyed clothes?
Not that I know of personally.
Yeah. Not really. Actually, it's
Yeah,
this is
not
a
really.
very very so. But and the huge demand. If you are going to enter natural light line, the input you're going to get from all the mentors and the industry. If you go to any mentoring session also and everything, they'll tell you, don't think of doing this in India. Think about the Scandinavian countries and Europe and Australia. Yes, there is a huge demand for natural dyed and organic clothing in Australia, Europe, America, and this thing, Japan and places like these, but not in India so much, right? So, but then the thing is that which we have the biggest consumer base. If the consumer is getting educated, there will be maximum consumers here who will buy your things. We compared to the world, we are one of the largest consumers in the world. So yeah, I mean, there is a lot of growth in this happening right now. As we are speaking, big, very, very big, iconic industries that make tons of lakhs of fabrics, they are actually experimenting with natural dyes. So they are doing at that level where you and me don't come to know about it, but it's going to come. And when it's going to come, if you are the one who has already had the knowledge and some experience with this, you will have an extra benefit over other people who will just be the new people who will start off on this thing. So it's a really good time to enter natural dyes. It's a niche field. It's a field where people are going to also employ people who are have some knowledge of natural dyes, because it's not there in these. Do you know that how many years back did we start using natural chemical dyes? I mentioned the year, but anybody remembers? So it's only 100, years that it's been that we've been using, chemical dyes. And before that, it was all natural dyes. So there is now a huge revival. And the revival is not very easy, because in this 100 years, we have actually discouraged all the people who are doing natural dyes to do that process. It's so expensive to do natural dyes that people do not come into this field, and they have started using chemical dyes to be able to sell. But the good news is, especially with us with Color Ashram, that we are using the old processes, I mean the old recipe and materials, because the ingredients of natural dyes will always be same. The same dyes, like hartaki, madder, I don't know if you know about these things, pomegranate peel, all these things are going to be used. but we have changed the process such that it is less fuel intensive, it is less expensive. The way we make our natural dyes at Color Ashram is a very different process. It's less expensive and it is scalable. So I mean, my co-founder and my partner is probably the pioneer of using natural dyes on industrial scale, where thousands of meters can be dyed with natural dyes. So, I mean, there is a need to make natural dyes scalable, as you mentioned also, because we can't think of anything small now. Our consumptions are huge. Handicraft industries will not be able to support this change of natural dyes. It has to come in industry. So it has to be scalable, it has to be standardized, and it has to be, little viable, economically viable, to be able to come at par and stand in competition with, chemical dyes. But it's only the matter of demand. If the demand of natural dyes increases, it'll actually become cheaper than chemical dyes in the long run. It's because to run a factory and to run a system, you need continuous orders, and that orders don't happen right now because of, fluctuation in demand and everything, that it's very expensive to do it. Yeah.
Namrata, I had a question. Is
Yes.
it necessary to have a lot of industry for synthetic dyes, or can synthetic dyes be made pre the industrial revolution, or is that the primary way we were able to introduce fast growing
Yeah, yeah. No,
chemically made dyes?
It happened with industries actually. Because of industrialization, there was a need to have natural dyes were not able to cope up with the process and everything. That's why synthetic dyes were introduced. But what process we have done is, on the same chemical dye industry machines, you can work with natural dyes on machines. So that is a breakthrough that we have been working with. The same machines, if you know the machines like jigger and soft flow, which are used in dyeing industries, they can actually use natural dyes. Yeah.
Noted. One more question, if I may. When
Yeah.
you say yarns and they're made on looms, there is a hand loom and a machine loom. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And the hand loom preceded the machine loom, and the machine loom made the yarn scalable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I follow.
Right. Shefali or Dimple, do you have any questions? Was this
No, no, no.
Yeah, so I mean, if you are, as a consumer, if you're wearing what you're wearing, you should look up the label really nicely. If there's polyester, it's not sustainable. If it's blended man-made fibers, it is okay. If it's natural dyes, it's excellent. If it's not natural dye, then you can still think about, that you can try to find natural dye textiles, and you could buy one instead of two clothing to be able to be conscious consumer. And if you can recycle, if you can pass on, if you don't throw the clothes if they're not sustainable, that's also an excellent way to keep the clothing conscious. And so I think this is for today. I can just show you a slide presentation which I wanted to show you, which is about, like, now I'm going to introduce the topic of natural dyes into clothing after sustainability. We'll go through it and then we'll talk more about it tomorrow, when we are going to learn about how to basically extract colors and make natural dyes. We're going to do a hands-on activity as well. Okay, so I'll just share my screen and show this presentation. One minute, I just want to that. Sorry, 1 minute. This is my presentation. Can't see it. Hmm. Yeah, got it. So anybody wanting to go deeper into the application of dyes in a scalable level and to work with it can actually come to us for training. We do training also. One moment, I was looking for the presentation. think I'll just need to refresh my page. Okay. Just few minutes, guys. It's refreshing. Hmm. There's some problem. One moment. Okay. Hmm. Okay, I'll just stop share and try and see if I can actually put this on before I open the things. Okay, it's open now. I'll just share the screen now. Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, Namrata, clearly visible.
Sure.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, this is Color Ashram's. Why do we need to do it? Is because whatever we discussed, that synthetic colors. What are the problems with synthetic color? And what on earth is natural color? So natural color is anything which the color which can come from a natural source. And if you're using a natural fixer with it, okay. And of course, we discuss it. What are the attributes of nature? Like, what are the points by which you judge if it is sustainable or not? Which is like it should be biodegradable. It should be, easily. I mean, not impacting the pH of the soil and water. Those things. Um, all of you must have heard that next war can be for water, right? So we're not just talking about the environment and nature and the clothing as such. The main impact is on water with textiles, and with the water becoming more problematic, scarce, and water pollution being a very important reason why next war could be for water. Natural dye is going to be really, really beneficial because you can actually recycle 75 to 80% of your water in this process, which you can't do in chemical dyes. Yeah, this is what a natural dye, this is this illustration is made with our colors on paper, the one, and the water is saying that, okay, I'm going to be safe if natural dyes are used. So what is it that we're talking about? We're talking about the dyes that can be plant-based. The fixers will always be mineral-based, but try and use the less harmful minerals. No animal testing. It is vegan. The dyes that we are using right now are all of this. They are completely organic, 100% organic dyes. Yeah. These are the options that we have at Color Ashram, but I'm going to skip this right now. How? So natural dyes are from sources. It can be, so natural dyes are both from plants and animals. Animals, one is what we're not using now. We are using the plant dyes only. But in some parts of the world, animal dyes are very famous in natural dyes. So this is like from an insect called cochineal, which is, they crush the insect and they get this really bright red color. Even the insect called lac is used for color, red color. So the natural dyers don't know anything. I mean, they're not worried about the ecology or the plant or the animal or whatever. They just want color from nature. That's how the history has been, right? But if you're going from environmental point of view, then you would like to only go for plant colors. And below here, some of the names of the things that are normally used in natural dyes, like alum, marigold, tamarind, indigo. They all have different functions. Iron rust, flame of forest, turmeric, pomegranate peel. So the pomegranate food is not used. The peel of a pomegranate is used in the dyes. That's also one interesting thing, that natural dyes could be actually use. They could use the waste of nature and food, not the actual food. Sea salt. Sea salt is really good in cleaning the fabric before processing it. Onion skin. The dark onions, the dark pink or brown onions are the one which give color, not the light ones. Then madder. Madder is a very good source of natural red. Types of natural dyes. There are three types of natural dyes. I'll repeat this tomorrow. Just go through it once today so that you have some idea, and we'll repeat it, discuss it more tomorrow. In natural dyes, there are three kinds of dyes. Substantive dyes are the ones that don't need a fixer. I mean, they are dye and fixer both. Okay. For example, tea. The chai, the tea that you drink is actually a mordant and a fixer and a dye both. Then there are some things which need mordant, which are called adjective dyes. For example, the dye from the plant called madder, or coffee. Coffee has is not having a fixer quality, so you would need a fixer with it. Then there are dyes called vat dyes, which don't need a mordant, but they need a fermentation and they need an activator, which is an alkali to be active. These are the three broad classification of natural dyes. And the shade of natural color changes if you change the pH of the water or the temperature of the dye bath. Okay. And I'll explain this more tomorrow. Health benefits, of course, all the natural dyes are mostly from sourced from Ayurvedic herbs. They all have medicinal qualities. And when you're using natural dyes on the clothes, then the clothes also have this, very, very healthy quality for your skin. Herb to color is what we'll be discussing tomorrow, of how to take out the color from the material. So basically, like these three are, this is pomegranate peel on the right hand side. And if you powder it, you get this kind of a powder. This is Kesura, or the flame of forest, which is very prominent in our tropical countries. And this gives a orangish kind of a color. And this is madder, which is a root of a plant, and it is very famous dye for which is used to make reddish or pink color. These are some of the examples. And how, so all the plant material is usually dried before they can be used in the natural dyes. How to find sources of natural color. So actually any organic material, if you boil it, it will give some color. But only some plants can actually give a color which can become a dye. For example, beetroot or say turmeric. These, if you boil them, you actually get color, right? But they are very, very fugitive. They can't be used in dyes because they also vanish very fast. They're not stable colors. They have to use in combination with something to make them stable, if at all. Okay. Similarly, a bright flower like rose, or say, is also very, it looks like it's bright red and it would give color. But if you crush it, if you crush it, you may actually not find any color. So the plant sources could be actually leaves, twigs, flower heads, bark, root, skin, shavings, berries, lichens. All of this can actually give color. But there are specific ones that give color. In animal sources, insects are used for dyes, and shellfish is we used to be used for giving purple color. They're not used anymore. These are some examples of plant dyes. Walnut shells are very good. Turmeric are used. Dahlia flowers, eucalyptus flowers, indigo plant you must have heard about. Then all of these plants, marigold, safflower, these are used. A lot of these plants are also which are not there in, which are not usually grown in our country. It's from European this thing. But anato, Brazil wood, marigold, all these safflower, these are sumac, all this is in our country as well. Um, this is some of the very common sources of natural dye. If you go to any natural dyer, they would be using madder for red. They would be using kesuda or this is called flame of forest or palash. So the plants have different names in different geographies. So you might want to just check in your area what is it called, then you'll understand. So this gives a orangish kind of a color, you know. Then Dhawdi is a wood flower which is grown in Bengal and Northeast, and this actually doesn't have any color of its own, but it can be used with other colors to make the other color bright. So with red, it can make the uh, color of the red brighter than what it is. Pomegranate peel is very famous for yellow color. Okay. Then Harda or Myrobalan, this is a picture of Harda. This is actually an Ayurvedic medicine. If any of you know about Ayurveda, Hartaki or Harda is used to cure colic pains and a lot of body diseases. And this is an excellent dye as well as a fixer in natural dyes. And some of the, okay, now the mordant, the word in the natural dye language for any fixer is the word mordant. And these are the few mordants which are natural is sea salt, fish skin, tea, minerals. And tea is what we're going to use tomorrow to make a mordant, because we are thinking of doing something from the kitchen. Otherwise, there are minerals called alum and iron, which if you do a next workshop with me, whenever you do, then we teach you how to do it with alum and iron. Right now, tomorrow, we're going to focus on anything which is available in your kitchen. Rhubarb leaves is a plant which is an excellent mordant. Okay. Then there are other elements like, iron, tin, tannic acid, chrome, oxalic acid, cream of tartar. Now, in all of this, we would not use chrome because chrome is very poisonous. Copper sulfate is poisonous. So, as a natural dyer, if you're also environment friendly, you would avoid these substances. I think I'll stop here because rest of the things become a little technical about natural dyes, which we should do tomorrow.